Now,
Interesting.
Anthony, tell him what that is.
1996. Well, it
Well,
was
in
1996.
1993, I had an encounter with this exact craft. And I was 13 years old. I was dirt bike riding in the woods, and I had stopped. I was covered in dirt and mud, and I had stopped, took water out of my school bag to like wash my face and get the dirt out of my mouth from riding the motorcycle. And when I looked up, there was one of these triangular craft coming in, like very slowly coming down. And like I kind of like wiped my eyes, like I couldn't believe what I was seeing. At first, I thought it was maybe the stealth bomber because that was the big thing going on back then, the stealth bomber. And it just stopped dead in the sky. And I'm watching this thing, and all of a sudden, a second triangle detaches from it, and they sit side by side, and they slowly rotate, very slowly counterclockwise next to each other. And the whole time I'm watching this, like, holy shit, what the hell is that? And I'm looking around for my buddies that were dirt bike riding me, like nobody's around. And the next thing, the one that popped off slowly goes back and they connect to each other. And you kind of see them like still moving, but connecting and like kind of like look like they were locking into position. And then very slowly, it just goes straight back up into the sky till I couldn't see it no more. And as soon as it was gone and out of sight, the next thing I heard was my father screaming my name on the top of his lungs. Then my mom and my sister and my neighbors, everybody was looking for me. I lost 5 hours of missing time. So I saw that at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Nobody found me till 5 o'clock in the evening. And still to this day, I swear to God, I was standing in the same exact spot that I didn't move. And my parents told me that they walked past that spot hundreds of times. They thought I had an accident on my motorcycle in the woods riding. I mean, I was only a kid. And I think it was like 1997 when the Phoenix Lights incident happened. And we were all down watching the news, and I told my parents, this is what I seen. This triangular kind of object, this is what I seen over the woods. And ever since then, I fully immersed myself in trying to figure out what's going on here with the UFOs. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've witnessed it. I've had missing time that I cannot explain. I can even tell you what the texture of the craft looked like. It was like this rock. This is what the texture of the object. This is what the texture of the object looked like. The skin of it.
Okay, wow.
Thing made no sound. So you explain to me how something so big can make no sound, and furthermore to the point, how I lost missing time. Mm-hmm. And I've spoken to many, many, many experts about missing time, and it happens a lot in UFO encounters. Like when you have a bona fide close encounter of, you know, the second or third or even fourth kind, missing time is a major factor. When I came to, and my dad's like, you should have been home hours ago, it's 5 o'clock. I didn't believe him. I didn't even wrap my head around like the sun was in a different position. It was getting darker out. Like it didn't even hit me yet. You know what I mean? Still to this day, I can't wrap my head around it. I can't explain it. But well, I can tell you, it happened. Other people witnessed this triangular craft on Staten Island at the same time. So I'm not the only one. I don't know if anybody else had missing time, but when something like that happens, like Robert was saying earlier, you go down this rabbit hole and you just want to absorb as much information as you possibly can. And I'm not, like I was saying earlier when we met, I'm not some nut job. I was a cop. You know, I was like a police officer my whole life. I dedicated my life to protecting and serving. I was down at the World Trade Center for 9/11. I have a lot of awards and commendations. I'm a highly decorated officer. And it happens. These things happen, and they're totally unexplainable. And again, that's why I immerse myself in my research to try to figure out what's going on. I really want to know.
Wow. What an intense encounter, man. Crazy.
Very intense. Very intense. Still to this day, I can't wrap my head around it. I can't explain it. But, well, I can tell you, it happened. Other people witnessed this triangular craft on Staten Island at the same time. So I'm not the only one. I don't know if anybody else had missing time. But when something like that happens, like Robert was saying earlier, you go down this rabbit hole and you just want to absorb as much information as you possibly can. And I'm not, like I was saying earlier when we met, I'm not some nut job. I was a cop. You know, I was like a police officer my whole life. I dedicated my life to protecting and serving. I was down at the World Trade Center for 9/11. I have a lot of awards and commendations. I'm a highly decorated officer. And it happens. These things
Mm-hmm.
happen and they're totally unexplainable. And again, that's why I immerse myself in my research to try to figure out what's going on. I really want to know.
Wow, what an intense encounter, man. Crazy.
Very intense. Very intense.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing
And
it.
then
Awesome.
I had
Yeah, thanks for letting me.
similar, you know,
Yeah, share
something
it.
similar.
Share it
April
with us.
21st, 1991, in southern New Jersey, a town called Lower Alloways Creek. My family, it was raining the night of the incident. My aunt lived directly next door, and my aunt was getting ready for bed, and she went into her bedroom. And out of the back window above the tree, there was a very long, thin, black triangular object with three blue lights on the corners of it and a white light in the center of it. My aunt was watching this object, and she decided to go to her bedroom and call my mother, my house that was directly next door. She calls my mother, and our phone was in the back of the kitchen, the old phones, the landlines. We didn't have cell phones or cameras or anything like that back then. And my mother picks up the phone, and my aunt is saying my mother's name, Beth Ann, Beth Ann, look out the back window. There's something just levitating there, hovering there. This object was absolutely silent, as Anthony said about his craft as well. And what was eerie was how completely still this object was in the air. It's abnormal to see something so large. Even a
Right.
helicopter in the air has a little wobble to it, like a leaf effect, you know what I mean? But to see something perfectly still in the air that large, and it was raining the night of this
Scary.
incident, and as Anthony showed that rock, my craft was a little different from what Anthony saw, but it was still like it looked like an organic, almost like a meteorite. It looked like the
Yeah.
craft was made out of a meteorite.
Organic
That's,
material. That's
yeah,
exactly right, Robert. Organic
yeah,
material is perfect. And back to what you were saying earlier, like these crafts could be alive. That could be the being itself.
exomaterials, bro.
Yeah,
Oh,
exomaterials. There you go. Yeah.
And they exomaterials, certain ones, and our government does know about this. Certain exomaterials can bend and alter the fabric of reality and
Thank you.
time, and that's been published and documented. But my family, we were watching this. My mother, she says, "Oh my God, what is that?" At the time, my mother was watching a baseball game with two of her friends. I was upstairs in my room. I was actually in bed. And when my mom started screaming, "Oh my God, what is it? What is it? What is it?" Her two friends got up off the couch and ran over. And I heard the commotion of the women screaming, "What is it? What is it?" And I stood on top of my bed and I also witnessed this. And I was extremely young. I was 3.5 years old. Just coming to terms with reality, just starting to talk all of this. And as we are watching this craft, all of a sudden, some sort of ball of light or beam of light came down onto the craft, and all at the same time. This all happened like this. And the craft was hovering there for approximately, because I have police reports, military transcripts, it was hovering there for approximately 5 to 6 minutes in total, completely still. And when this ball of light and beam of light came down, all simultaneously, the craft exploded. Red and orange sparks started shooting out. And the white light that was in the center of it, it was a very strange white light, on some sort of plasma-ish white light. And that white light in the center sucked itself into itself. The outside of the craft exploded like you would imagine a normal aircraft explosion. 150 yards or two. I guess a couple base football fields. I know you're in the metric system over there, so I'm not going to use yards and feet. But of a few football stadiums. And debris, almost like a firework. And when you watch a firework and you think the fireworks are going to hit you, but they don't.
Yeah.
When this
Yeah.
thing exploded, that's exactly how it was. My family was worried that debris was going to hit our house. It was directly behind our house. It was terrifying. My mother instantly hung up the phone and she called 911, and she didn't say UFO. She said some sort of aircraft just exploded behind our house. Please send help. 10 minutes later, police come, take initial statement. 25 minutes later, two cars pull up, two black cars. Out of the one car, two men wearing black suits and black hats. Out of the other car, a man dressed in Air Force attire. And what happened after that has been known as the Lower Alloways Creek incident. And my mother was threatened, and it was very, very serious.
Oh.
And I have all
All
the evidence.
documented. All
Took me 30
documented.
years.